Urban legends. We all know more than one, don't we? Stories that seemingly came out of nowhere. Stories that impact tons of people's lives. Stories that are said to be true, but rarely turn out to be. Yet, you can always find people that swear that they are true. Some even claim the story happened to them personally. What are we to do with those accounts? Imagine someone that has had a Bigfoot encounter. Someone that has seen a ghost. Someone that has had a religious experience even. Try to convince them that what they saw didn't really happen. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what they believe. At that point, what carries more weight for you? Someone's first-hand testimony or a so-called expert thousands of miles away that says it was due to swamp gas that escaped when the surrounding air was precisely 64.7 degrees and that it was illuminated by the light of a full moon, but due to the height of the surrounding tree canopy, it could only happen at exactly 11:43 at night, or else the light would have been in shadow. Trust me though, because I have a string of initials behind my name. So, what do? We tend to go with the theory of the experts, right? I mean, they did spend a lot of money to get those initials. Surely they've got access to some special teachings that the poor riffraff like us simply can't afford. All hail the elites. So we move on, believing the experts and calling the people that had the encounter crazy, all the while forgetting that the original testimony said the encounter happened during the dog days of summer in broad daylight. It doesn't matter though. We were captivated by the expert's word salad explanation, so they must be right. But the truth of the matter is, they were wrong. And they knew that they were wrong, right out of the gate. But to admit that they were wrong would be an act of humbleness, an abandonment of pride. That's not very elite now, is it? Today's story is not one of those. Yep, you guessed it. I'm in a rambling mood again, of sorts. Today's presentation was spurred by a popular urban legend out of Louisiana. One that I and anyone else can easily debunk in less than 5 minutes. Even with that said, this one hung around in my mind, nagging at me for a long time. Why are so many people eager to believe this one? Hell, I did before I dug into it. I have my theories behind the why. It's because of fear. An old fear that has been around for a long, long time. One that may be so embedded into our existence, our very DNA, that many of us recognize it without knowing what it really is, or even why we know it at all. Everyone loves a good, strange, weird, or bizarre story. Well, welcome to the American South, where dark legends and haunted history lurk around every corner. Where superstition, folklore, and a touch of backwoods magic blend with everyday culture. Some say, in order to survive. This is Dixie After Dark. It's called the Devil's Toy Box, the last remaining structure of a defunct Halloween attraction in Louisiana, but no one knows exactly where. It seems to be one of those things that only those meant to find it actually find it. According to the story, the Devil's Toy Box was a small shack of a building near the end of the attraction where people would be challenged to go inside and see how long they could last. The little shack was a single room, and in the center of the room was a single folding chair for the participant to sit in. The catch to the room, though, was that the walls, floor, and ceiling was all mirrors, reflections in any direction that you looked. The billing of the attraction was that if you stayed in there long enough, the devil himself would show up and steal your soul. A timer was set up outside the Devil's Toy Box to let those outside know how long the current occupant had been inside, as well as a separate timer beneath that one to show the record time set so far, the record being only 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The person that had set that record was now reportedly a mute, staring off, wild-eyed, and never saying a word since his stay. It seemed that this was the case for many of the occupants, leaving them completely mad afterwards. No one that ever entered the Devil's Toy Box ever came out in a right enough mind to tell their story, so no one is even sure as to what actually happened while they were inside. Some thought that the devil actually appeared to them. Others think it had something to do with the mirrors. Regardless, word had begun to spread, and the Halloween attraction was forced to close down. But with the word spreading, the story also made its rounds through the young and curious people in the area. People began venturing out to see the thing for themselves, which led to an outbreak of trespassing charges. Then everything on the site was torn down. Oddly enough, though, everything was torn down except for the Devil's Toy Box. We're never given a specific reason for this, but the speculation is that it was rebuilt later. Even so, it couldn't always be found. The lone standing building could be found by some, but not by others. Word started to spread that the Devil's Toy Box would only appear to those that were meant to find it, perhaps those that the devil knew would be easy prey. For those that were able to find the Devil's Toy Box, they would find the shack padlocked shut, but there was always a folding chair propped up on the outside wall. The understanding was that the chair was for you, to simply wait. After some time, a mysterious figure would appear from the surrounding woods and ask if you were there for the box. Some say this figure was the previous owner of the haunted attraction. Others say that the owner was no longer living, having taken his own life after the heat coming down on him when the attraction was forced to close down. Either way, the figure knew if you were there waiting. After answering yes, that you were there to see the box, the figure would unlock the door and allow you inside. The surrounding area was then plagued with missing persons cases that friends and family members would point out that those who went missing were known to have gone looking for the Devil's Toy Box. That's how the stories continue today. Occasionally, a new report will crop up of someone missing or found deceased in a remote area. Vague reports from loved ones that they had went in search of the Devil's Toy Box, or social media posts showing their interest in finding the origins of the story, and that they'd report back or go live from there if they found it. Now, let's not bury the lead here. This legend has been easily debunked. The story of the Devil's Toy Box is a work of fiction, originally written for the website Thought Catalog by writer Joe Farrelly in 2015. It is a great and compelling story though, and if you're interested in checking it out for yourself, I'll leave a link to the story in the description box below. The author has written several short stories for the site over the years, and he admits himself that the story is a work of fiction. With that being said though, how many of you remember the stories of Slender Man? That one too is a known work of fiction. But it got so popular that there have even been movies made about Slender Man. Then, in 2014, two 12-year-old girls stabbed a friend 19 times and left her to die in the woods, all to appease Slender Man, to appease a fictional character. The young woman that was attacked thankfully survived, but still, remember when I said it doesn't matter what you believe, it matters what they believe? What would happen if someone was curious enough and dead set on finding the devil's toy box? What would happen if life imitated art and someone built their own version of the devil's toy box? Maybe we should start with an easier question. Why are people so apt to believe this one in particular? Maybe because it takes place in Louisiana. I mean, come on. We all know how weird and strange stories out of Louisiana can be. Or maybe it has something to do with the simple use of mirrors. I can remember my first time getting a feeling of strangeness from a mirror. I was elementary school age and we were on some sort of field trip with the school. I can't remember exactly where, but I do remember the place having an infinity mirror set up. If you don't know what that is, it's a setup of two or more mirrors facing each other, so you see the reflection of a reflection, and it seemingly goes on forever, each reflection getting smaller and smaller into infinity. Of course, all the kids thought this was cool, and this particular setup was with life-sized mirrors that you could stand in between, so the reflection you saw moving into forever was yourself. I myself didn't find this particularly cool. It gave me an uneasy feeling, one that made me scared to look into the reflection, yet scared to look away from it at the same time. Almost like I was afraid I would miss something moving in the reflection that shouldn't be there. I've also had an uneasiness with mirrors in dark rooms, even to this day. I'm not sure where that one came from or when it started, but it's still there. The fear of mirrors is common enough to have a name. 3 names to be exact. Catotrophobia, spectrophobia, and isotrophobia. There's no telling how long these fears have existed, but it's been long enough to have words to label that fear with for more than 2,000 years. Not to mention the tales of mirrors in folklore, myths, and superstitions. We all know the superstition of breaking a mirror will bring you 7 years bad luck. That one goes all the way back to ancient Rome, a combination of 2 schools of thought. One, it was seen as disrespectful to break a mirror because they were so hard to make. 2, the Romans believed that life renewed itself every 7 years, so it would take that long for broken parts of your life to be fixed. Others say that superstition goes back even further, 8,000 years ago, to Anatolia. Those people had access to black obsidian mirrors, and they believed that their reflection was actually their soul. Thus, breaking a mirror was doing damage to their own soul itself. Another belief I can remember hearing about firsthand is covering mirrors or turning them to face the wall when someone died. Some believe this was to prevent the departing soul from seeing their own deceased body. Others believed it was done to prevent the soul from being trapped within the mirror itself. The mirror having the ability to trap a spirit, preventing it from moving on to the afterlife, is the one that I remember hearing as a child. And I've talked to many people in my area that can remember the ritual of family members covering mirrors in the house after a passing when they were children. This was in a time when many families still displayed the body of the deceased in their own homes, before the mainstream popularity of funeral homes. With this belief still going on as recent as a few decades ago, I have no doubt that places in the South still practice this ritual today. There are also many cultures around the world that hang mirrors to ward off evil spirits, with the spirits being said to detest the appearance of their own reflection, or having a fear that they themselves become trapped in the mirror. Somewhat similar, they say that a mirror in your bedroom can cause nightmares. The belief here is that your soul leaves the body when you sleep, and your soul can be frightened if it sees itself in the mirror. Also, upon returning, the soul could see the reflection of its sleeping body in the mirror and get confused, trying to enter the reflection of the body rather than its own body itself, leaving you open to something trying to steal your soul, or possessing your own body in place of your soul. Some say that a mirror can create liminal space, or a space between worlds. In this belief, a mirror can act as a doorway between the worlds for spirits and demons to enter our own physical world. The list goes on and on. Beliefs of how a mirror can show a young woman who their future husband will be, or even predict if they will die before becoming married. In connection with mirrors trapping spirits or working as doorways comes the superstition of never owning a second-hand mirror, because you never know how it was treated or what it contains. There's also the practice of scrying, using mirrors or any other reflective surface to contact spirits or to see the future, a practice as old as time, but was largely popularized in the 1500s by John Dee, occultist and advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. So, let's tie all this back with the story of the Devil's Toy Box, or anything similar that may be constructed. I wonder if the abundance of superstition and beliefs behind mirrors is what lead people to instinctively believe this story. That's where my mind went with it anyway. There's no shortage to strange beliefs in mirrors, and I've only touched on a few of them. So what would happen if a structure such as the Devil's Toy Box existed? Who knows? Any number of things, I would think. But let's say that none of these superstitions happened. Then it's just you, closed in a room with an infinite amount of your own reflection staring back at you. You're forced to look at yourself from any and all angle imaginable. How would that work out for you? Would you be looking into your own nature? The nature of someone that seeks out the Devil's Toy Box, to test the idea of the devil trying to take your very soul. The reflection of rebellion, arrogance, defiance, magnified back at you an infinite amount of times. No thank you. My own self-reflection at times can be more than I can bear on my own. I don't need to multiply that reflection by infinity. But hey, that's just me.